Welcome back to my channel for another Hasselblad episode, which will be a tutorial about manual focus. And the background is very simple. Not too long ago, I posted a video about the autofocus system of the Hasselblad X2D Mark II. I provided a fully fledged tutorial about all the focus modes you can use, about focus tracking, subject detection, all the functions that are in the highly capable autofocus system of the X2D Mark II. And in that video, I also asked if there would be interest to provide a similar tutorial on manual focusing techniques. And the answer from you guys clearly was yes. Please post a video about manual focus on the Hasselblad X2D Mark II. And like always, I'm happy to follow up. This is the video you are asking for. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. Many thanks for that. All right, so the Hasselblad X2D Mark II has a very strong autofocus system, but there might be situations where you want to fall back on manual focus. A typical example in my world of photography is macro photography. Here I sometimes like to use manual focus and rely on the manual focus I get done with my hands on the focus ring. And for the Hasselblad X2D Mark II, there are also a bunch of menu entries. When it comes to manual focus, there are different techniques you can use, different focusing aids you can leverage for your benefit. And in this video, I want to explain all of them so you can, in the same way as you use the autofocus system, also manage and master manual focus on the Hasselblad X2D Mark II. The lens I'm going to use for this tutorial is my Hasselblad XCD 55V, widest open aperture is an f2.5, which should be already dialed in here. You see it here, f2.5. And it's, in my opinion, one of the best lenses in the Hasselblad X system lineup. And of course, I've also Jennifer here in front of me on the table because these type of tutorials I typically do in the studio, and Jennifer is my all-time patient photo model to illustrate different concepts to you. And now let's go right into the topic. I want to offer you 3 different ways to switch from autofocus mode into manual focus mode. And maybe there are even more. This camera sometimes is like a mystery. If you have shot it for a long time, if you go repeatedly through the menu, you find some other option which you have overlooked before. But at least 3 ways I will offer to you. And the first one is a very intuitive one and works via the focus ring pull. And I'm currently in autofocus mode here. You see Jennifer's eye is detected and I could shoot her now. And if you have a lens which has an aperture scale here, then you can pull the focus ring away from the camera body like this. And then you get here a distance scale. The white color is in meter. The orange color means feet. And in this way, you can dial in any distance you want. The minimum focusing distance on that lens here is 0.45 meter. And of course, you can focus all the way up to infinity here. And via the aperture scale here, you can also figure out a rough estimate of your depth of field. And that functions, by the way, and works in the same way as on any Leica M lens, where you also have a distance scale and an aperture scale and can use that to determine a rough estimate for your depth of field. And that's the easiest way. And now I'm in manual focus mode. Have a look here. Autofocus is no longer working. Half pressing the shutter button doesn't help me. And I accidentally released the shot. And then I can focus here. And you also see something going on here, which I'm going to explain in the course of the video. And now I could take my shot. Simple like that. If I want to go back into autofocus mode, I just push that focus ring back towards the camera body like this. And now I'm back in autofocus mode. See here? And I can do this, of course, without having a look at the focus ring. I pull it out, then I'm in manual focus mode. I push it in, and then I'm in autofocus mode again. Simple like that. And what you need to be aware, of course, is not all lenses have this scale here and the mechanics to pull and push the focus ring. And a good example for such a lens is the XCD 75P lens. It's a typical portrait half body shot lens. I have a fully fledged review of that lens on my channel, which I'm happy to post down below in the info box. And here you see the focus ring can be rotated. It's buttery smooth, no noise, very good build quality, but I cannot pull or push the focus ring and there is no aperture scale here. So with this lens, you need to follow my second or third approach, which I'm going to show you right now. So I'm back here in autofocus mode. Jennifer's face is detected. I can half press the shutter button and focus on her eye here and her face. And the second way to get into manual focusing mode is by going via the control screen. And if I press here, I get here the focus mode. And if your lens is compatible with autofocus continuous, you have here always three options. You have autofocus single, you have autofocus continuous, and you have manual focus mode. And of course, I can also use touch functionality and tap these focus modes to get into the respective mode. If your lens is not compatible with autofocus continuous, you always see here only autofocus single and manual focus. So if I want to go into manual focus mode, I just tap here. And then if I half press the shutter button, I'm back in live view and now I can focus here. And by the way, you see this works very well. I can also focus then on this focus ring on these particular lenses where you have an aperture scale here without pulling out the focus ring. No need to do that. If I'm here in MF mode, I can use the focus ring in both positions, in this position and in this position to focus. And look here how this works, blurry, more in focus and so on. Very simple. And that's the second way to get into manual focusing mode. Let's go back into autofocus mode and I use the control screen here. And then there is a third option. If you find it tedious to go via the control screen, you can also customize one of the various function buttons on the camera body to toggle between autofocus single, autofocus continuous, and manual focus. Autofocus continuous, I'm repeating myself, is only available if your X lens is compatible with that focus mode. So let me show you how to do this. For this, we go here into the menu, then we go into general, and here we go to custom buttons. And you see now here the front view of the X2D Mark II. Here is the top view and here is the rear view. And you see we can customize here the control wheel and a push on the control wheel, the joystick, and also this customizable button here. I want to use this one here for my illustration. So I switch here. You see I can use the joystick to switch to this one here. And this one here is currently set up for focus point and subject detection. So let's go in that and let's see here what we can find. Let me go here to toggle focus mode. And that is here, focus mode cycle. Let's choose it. And now if I go back into live view, I'm here in autofocus mode. But if I push it, it switches into autofocus continuous. See here, it changed to autofocus continuous. And if I push that customize function button again, it switches into manual focus, watch. And now I'm in manual focus and can get my focusing done via the focus ring. Simple like that. And you also see it here, of course. You see, here we have manual focus. Then I push it again. I'm back in autofocus single. Here you see it, autofocus single. I'm pushing it again and my lens is compatible with autofocus continuous. So I'm here in AFC and pushing it again. I'm back in manual focus and can use the focus ring to operate the lens and finding focus on Jennifer's body here. Simple like that. And that's the third way which you can use to switch from autofocus single, for instance, or autofocus continuous into manual focus. Just customize one of the available function buttons and then you can toggle between these different focus modes. All right, so far so good. We have now 3 different ways to switch from autofocus into manual focus. And what I want to discuss next is the focus menu. And if we go here and we choose focus, we have here the manual focus section. And you see, they call it here in the Hasselblad language manual focus assist. In some other camera brands, it's called focus aids, whatever it is. And you see here 3 different options. and one option where you don't get any assistance at all, that's none. Then we have focus indicator, auto zoom, and focus peaking. Let's start with focus indicator because that's the symbol in the center of the frame we saw all the time. And I still have set up this button here to toggle, so I'm currently in autofocus single. And now I switch into autofocus continuous. And I can then, with the next push, switch into manual focus. And then I get the focus indicator. And the focus indicator is very, very nice. I really love using this in the Hasselblad X cameras because it works so nicely. And first of all, this is like a focus field. I can move this here, for instance, to Jennifer's head. And you see there are two half circles. One sits on the top, one sits at the bottom. And there is a little cone or indicator, a little triangle. And if this is exactly at 12 o'clock, I found focus. And then it turns green. You see here, and I also get on the focus ring a haptic feedback. And this is now where Jennifer would be in focus. So let's take that shot. Let's take a shot here. Let's tap into it. Let's have a look. And you see Jennifer is nice, sharp, and in focus. And this focus indicator also shows you what direction of the focus ring you have to turn. And let's go here to this side here. Let's go here. And you see now you know you have to turn the focus ring clockwise to get to that 12 o'clock position here. See? You see me doing that. Very fine focus ring. And here the haptic feedback kicks in and it's green and I can take the shot. If this little triangle or cone or indicator here is on the right hand side, you know that you have to turn the focus ring counterclockwise to bring it back to the 12 o'clock position. And this is, in my opinion, an ingenious way to focus. Watch here, now it's green and Jennifer's face is sharp and in focus. So this is really, really cool. And as I said, you can move this around, place it wherever you want on your frame. And you see here, if I go away from Jennifer's face, it's no longer green. And the triangle here moved to basically short before the 3 o'clock position. And if I get it back to Jennifer's face, it will turn green again because it recognizes that here the focus is sitting. Look at that. It's very nice. If I'm focusing on Jennifer's face, have dialed in on the focus ring the correct distance and move to the right-hand side, we will see how this triangle flips to a position, let's call it between 2 and 3 o'clock. If I move the focus field back to Jennifer's face, it will turn green again because it recognizes that here the focus was sitting. And that happens, of course, in this way, as I just demonstrated, as long as I do not change the position of the focus ring. This triangle will always find a position at the upper half circle. Let me show you. If I move out here, let's go to a more dark area so you can see it. Now the triangle is sitting again between 2 and 3 o'clock. And I can turn the focus ring and you see it moving. You see how this is how I can move this indicator. And once in a while it finds a stop. And no matter how much I turn the focus ring, it will stop here. And then if I change direction and go to the other side, the same will happen. It will stay where it is and it will not leave the upper half circle you have indicated here. Here I'm now focusing, that's what the green color is indicating, and the indicator at the 12 o'clock position at my background wall where that watch is hanging on the wall. The next focusing assistant we need to discuss is focus peaking. And again, we go here into the focus menu. And then in the focus menu, we have here MF Assist. And here we now choose focus peaking. And focus peaking is well known to most of you. All of you have used this already on this camera or any other camera. It's basically a color indication that shows us where the focus is currently sitting. And you have all kinds of different options here which you can choose. And one is, in my opinion, a matter of taste, but also has a function. And you can choose here the peaking color. And you see we have here choices of orange, yellow, cyan, magenta, and inverse. And they might have a different meaning. Let's switch to this one here for the time being. And you see now we have here cyan as a color. And since the focus ring was not moved by me, it's still sitting on Jennifer's face, head, and body. Shallow depth of field, of course, because I'm at f2.5. Let me make this dark in the background so you see it, f2.5. And this is one of the colors you can use. Let's switch to some other color so I can make my point. Let's go here to focus. Let's go here instead of cyan. Let's go to orange and have a look. Now the peaking color is orange. Now, is there something you notice? Let's go back to the menu and drop me a comment right now if you notice something. And then I will tell you what I think you should have noticed. So let's go to focus here. And let's go back to the peaking color here. And in the peaking color, we have orange, yellow, cyan, which is a blue tonality here, magenta, and inverse. And what do you notice if you look at these colors? They are kind of exotic, right? These are not the usual colors like blue, green, red, what have you. And I think Hasselblad is the only brand who uses only exotic colors here. Well, yellow is not super exotic, but orange, you know, cyan, blue, magenta. I think you don't find any standard color here has a reason, namely that you want to avoid that your peaking color is in coincidence with the color of the background. And let's go back here to Jennifer and the orange peaking color here. If she would stand in front of an orange background, it gets much harder to see whether she's in focus or is not in focus, because you have orange color already in the background with quite a distance from Jennifer's body where you want the focus actually to sit. And that's why Hasselblad, that's at least my speculation, has here mainly exotic colors and not the standard blue, the standard green, and so on, but orange, yellow, cyan, blue, magenta, and inverse. And I think when I said before, this one here is a matter of taste, it's also at the same time a matter of function, because you want to choose here the color that best possible distinguishes the target you have, the subject, the object you want to focus on from the surrounding colors. If Jennifer would have an orange shirt here, that would not be super cool, and we would probably want to switch to some other color than orange like I did here. And in this way, you can steer your peaking experience to the most effective and efficient color scheme you want to use here. Let me switch to some other color where I can make my next point. And let's have a look here. Let's go to focus and let's go under peaking color now to, I think magenta is nice. I use most of the time magenta. And I also like the color. And now you see this magenta color kicking in on Jennifer's body. Now I've set up here the rear control wheel. If I push it, it starts the zoom or the magnification of the scene towards the focus field. And the focus field is sitting currently in Jennifer's face. So let's push it. And then we see whether Jennifer's face is sharp and in focus. And you also see here and at her hair and at her eyebrows a little bit kicking in the magenta color. I'm not sure if with YouTube compression and everything that's going on before you finally see this video, you really recognize it. I think it's best visible here on her hair. There is magenta color. And if I now turn the focus ring, you see how the magenta color is kicking in here more or less, and I can fine tune this to find the best possible focus. Watch her eyebrows again. And here now you see the magenta kicking in on her hair and her eyebrows. So the peaking is activated no matter whether I'm in the full view like here or whether I'm in magnified view. But there is a dedicated switch here in the menu, which I'm going to show you quickly, which will steer the peaking behavior in another Focus 8 setting. And you see here peaking in zoom is activated, but even if I deactivate it, as long as I'm under MF assist in focus peaking, I will always see the peaking also when I magnify the scene and crop in. Have a look here. So let's go here and let's crop in, and you see the magenta here wandering across her hair and her eyebrows. Now we are sharp and in focus with Jennifer's face, and it's always there, no matter whether I activate or deactivate in the focus menu, this switch here which says peaking in zoom. And that's an important takeaway, because we'll go under MF assist in a moment to auto zoom, and then you will see that this switch really has a meaning. But here, as long as you are in MF assist under focus peaking, no matter whether you look into full view or magnified view, your peaking color will always be visible at the area where the focus is sitting. Okay, let's continue. So now I'm in MF assist, still on focus peaking, and if I rotate the focus ring, you know, I get Jennifer more or less in focus, and I see the peaking color magenta kicking in, and can do my best to get Jennifer nice and sharp. And nothing changed. Now, you can also set this camera up in a way that the moment in time you turn the focus ring, it does automatically what I do here with my thumb, namely pushing and then magnifying the scene. So the moment in time you turn the focus ring, magnification will kick in. And how to set this up is in the same menu here. We go here to focus, and then in focus, we change here from MF assist to auto zoom. And now watch what happens. First of all, the peaking color is no longer there, but the moment in time I start to turn the focus ring, let me start, it will start to magnify and crop into the scene. And you see now in the magnified view, the magenta peaking color coming to life. If I stop rotating the focus ring, it switches back to the full view here, to the full frame. But as long as I keep rotating it and trying to find focus, it will give me the focus peaking with magenta color. That's what I set up. And the magnified view. I get my hands off the focus ring, and a moment later, it falls back into the full frame view of the whole scene in front of the camera. That's the way it works. Now, if I want to rely on magnification only, and you see here, I can easily see whether her eyes are sharp and in focus, and don't want the peaking color coming to life here in my live view, I can also deactivate it. And that's what that switch is doing. I showed you a moment ago. Let's go to focus, and if I now deactivate here peaking in zoom, and you see MF assist is auto zoom, zoom aligns with zoom, now peaking in zoom gets deactivated, then the moment in time I turn out a focus ring, it will magnify, crop into the scene, show me her face large on the live view, but the peaking color will no longer be visible and focus peaking is deactivated. Have a look. And you see here, even when I find focus, no magenta pixels anywhere in the frame. It's no longer there because I deactivated it. So that's what that switch is doing here. And I typically have this on, and I think this is in manual focus a very important takeaway I'm now making. I always try to combine as much of focus assistance I can get. And that means if I can have simultaneously focus peaking as well as magnification, I'm gratefully taking it. And that's why my recommendation is for you guys, if you want to do precise focusing, don't deactivate that switch here. Leave it on at all times, because if you choose under assistance auto zoom, you will get the best of both worlds. You will get a magnified view of your subject or object in the scene, and you will get the color kicking in, and you can precisely focus then. Look here. This is now where her eyes start to get in focus, and you see the magenta color kicking in on her eyebrows. So it's always good to combine as much assistance as possible for precise focusing. And let me quickly show you something else. If you are in focus here and go to the menu and you fall back to focus peaking, which we had before, it will not automatically magnify, as I already demonstrated, but you always have the option to push here the rear control wheel inside the camera body and then get your magnification manually activated by that push onto the rear control wheel. And now you have the same effect as if you would be in auto zoom plus peaking, but it doesn't automatically switch back into the full frame view. So for me, actually, that version, that variant of being in focus peaking and in magnification by a push of a button, it can be any other button too if you want, that is for me the best of all worlds you can have here in manual focus, because it always combines focus peaking with the color you have chosen, magenta in my case, plus a push of the rear control wheel, and then you get magnification and focus peaking. And even if your fingers are off the focus ring, it stays in that magnified view, so you have full control over your focus. That's the best you can do in my own humble opinion. Again, under the headline, let's call it tips and tricks. I want to show you one more setting in focus peaking, which in my personal humble opinion is ingenious. And that's the inverse setting. And we haven't spoken about that so far, so I want to show to you what it means. Let's go to focus. Let's go here to peaking color. And here we have what I called before, the more exotic colors, orange, yellow, cyan, blue, and magenta, but there's also inverse. And if we are on magenta, watch this again, you see the magenta color kicking in here on Jennifer's body. But if we go to inverse, that color will change and we'll see it live. Let's go to inverse, let's go into live view. And now this color is blue and is a very strong blue. And why did it now switch to blue without me choosing blue? Because blue is not even an available color in that peaking color menu. Well, the camera adapts the peaking color to best possible get contrast to the subject it's focusing on. And that is kind of cool. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a color science specialist, but I believe that blue is kind of quote unquote the opposite color of brown and orange, and that's why it kicks in here in blue. And this peaking color adaptation automatically done by the camera is kind of an ingenious feature, and that's why I moved Jennifer a little bit to the side. And you see, if you look at Jennifer, the peaking color is still that very strong bluish blue color here, but on that book, and I just moved it into the scene and made a bit space for that book, the peaking color is kind of neon green. Have a look here. There is nothing greenish on that book. If I zoom out, you see the true colors. That is the true color of the book. But if I get the book sharp and in focus, the color is greenish, neon greenish, a different green color than what you see on Jennifer's body. And you still see on Jennifer's body a little bit of that strong blue, but a different part of the scene, namely the book, needs a different peaking color. And the camera automatically recognizes it, adapts it, and is able to show me in one part of the scene a strong blue peaking color, because that's the best contrast to how Jennifer looks like. And in some other part of the scene, namely here, it shows me some greenish color as peaking color. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So different parts of the scene get different color assigned to the pixels to indicate you whether they are sharp and in focus. Absolutely fantastic. And I thought that is a highlight I need to mention here under tips and tricks. And I personally like, besides magenta, which is one of my favorite colors, I really like sometimes using here the inverse setting under peaking color, because it is so interesting to see how the camera tries to find the best contrast peaking color compared to what part of the scene you are trying to explore, whether the focus is sitting there or not sitting there. Look at that. We have blue color peaking on Jennifer, and we have neon greenish color peaking on the book. Absolutely amazing. I thought you need to see this if you have not found out this setting by yourself already. All right, I think we went quite some way together in my manual focus tutorial for the Hasselblad X2D Mark II. But there are more things I need to mention to provide you a complete picture. And the first is kind of a hint or a statement, you know, something that's going on in the camera. You might be tempted to think, and I'm here in manual focus mode still, that subject detection is still working, but it is not working. And I'm going to show you right here. If I tap on here, where I typically can select subject detection, it says unable to change focus point or use subject detection in manual focus mode. And that is kind of natural, but I think it would have theoretically been possible to segregate the focus field selection, which doesn't make a lot of sense in manual focus because you're manually focusing, from the subject detection features. And nevertheless, also in manual focus, getting Jennifer's face recognized, but that is not possible. If I tap on here, it says in manual focus, no subject detection, bad luck. The next remark I want to make here is that you can, in manual focus, see here again, manual focus, still use autofocus for getting very quickly to the point where you want the focus to sit. And that's done via the AFD button here. and that stands for autofocus drive. And autofocus drive is always on, kind of, even in manual focus mode. And if I move the focus field here away from Jennifer and want to focus on the watch on the wall in the background, I just press and hold here, and it finds me focus on the wall. And if I go back to Jennifer's face, I was too quick here, and I push autofocus drive, it gets me focus to Jennifer. And of course, I can then fine tune if I want, but it's typically a pretty precise first, if not the final indication where the focus will sit if you move the focus field to a certain area in the frame. And then, since the Hasselblad X2D Mark II has touch functionality on the back LCD here, you can also touch to autofocus in manual focus mode. Again, proof that I'm in MF mode here, manual focus, and then I go into the menu and go into the manual focus section. And here you find a menu entry that says touch autofocus in manual focus. I just activate it, and I will get disappointed because it's not working. The focus field is sitting on Jennifer. I want to tap here, focus on the background. It's not working. And why is it not working? Well, because I overlooked another setting which comes in sync, and that is this one here. It's a typical mistake to activate touch autofocus in manual focus and then believing you're good to go. But what you also need to activate is touch to move autofocus point, which is something I typically have deactivated, but here we need it. And now I can tap and focus, for instance, on the background to the watch on the wall, and it will focus, although I'm in manual focus mode. So this is easy, going back to Jennifer, and it will find focus on Jennifer. Again, I can override and fine tune this if I want, but it's a very precise indication, if not the final point where the focus is supposed to sit. If I tap on a corresponding area in the frame here on the LCD live view, it will always update. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go back to Jennifer. Let's go back to the watch in the background and to Jennifer's face. And you see this works like a charm. I'm not a touch person. I mentioned it so many times on my channel. So I will deactivate this very quickly because I don't want it. But if you work with it, if you, for instance, have, the camera on waist level shooting like this, then this is a very useful feature because you can very precisely, with a tap of your finger, place the focus field somewhere else and automatically, without even touching the focus ring, get your subject or object sharp and crisp and in the way you likely want it. For me, is not my workflow. I deactivated, but of course, for the sake of completeness, I had to show to you how this works. The last couple of settings I want to show, I've shown before in tutorials, but it just also needs to find a place here in a manual focusing tutorial. And that's that the camera has quick settings in the customization of buttons for minimum focusing distance and focusing at infinity. And let's create a scenario where this makes perfectly sense. Let's say you are a landscape shooter. You know you want to focus at infinity, but you're typically in manual focus mode. And then you can just assign a function to focus at infinity on a button. And that works very well. Let me quickly show you how this works. So we go here into the menu. We go under General into Custom Buttons. Then we get the top view and the back view. I use this button again, so I have to move the orange indicator to that button, and then I can select it. And then if we scroll down here, we find somewhere here, let me go down here, Focus Infinity. And if I choose that, it's programmed to sit on that button here. And now let's change the display representation here. And I have here the distance scale, and you will see the moment in time I push that button, that indicator here, the small white triangle, will move from just before 0.6 meter to infinity. Watch, here we go, and it focuses at infinity. The infinity symbol gets green, and let's do this again. Let's focus back at Jennifer here. And if I push that button where I set this function up, it jumps to infinity. And we have infinity focus in our scenario. For the landscape shot, we want to take in manual focus mode. And here I'm still in manual focus mode. You see this here. And then we have the corresponding function. So we just demonstrated focus at infinity, manual focus, landscape shooter, camera on a tripod. You saw how to do that. Now let's say you are a close-up or macro shooter. You want to go to the opposite end, namely focusing at the minimum focusing distance. You are shooting in manual focus mode here. You see the MF, and then you can also assign this function maybe to a different button, but I will use that button again because it's today my demonstration button. And you will find this function sitting right on top of the infinity focus. So if we go here, I choose the corresponding button, and then you see here focus infinity, and this is focus minimum. And I show you currently the focus is sitting here with that indicator triangle at infinity. If I push the button, it moves to 0.45 meter, which I mentioned before to be the minimum focusing distance of the Hasselblad XCD 55V watch. Here we go, and 0.45 meter is green, and the focus is sitting there. So these are the two last functions I wanted to mention here. As I said, I've shown them before, but they belong here in this video. So in order to get you a complete picture, I had to mention it. Well, maybe one more point. If you're in this display representation where you have the distance scale, you can also tap on the right-hand side on the infinity symbol, and the camera will automatically switch your focus to infinity. Or you tap on the minimum focusing distance on the left-hand side, which is 0.45 meter. And if you tap on that, it will adjust the focus towards the minimum focusing distance. And then you don't have to waste a customizable function button in the way I just demonstrated. This is more for situations where this display representation info screen is not your typical shooting workflow, and where you don't have a distance scale on some other display representation. Then, of course, it makes sense to place this function on a function button. Otherwise, if you're shooting in this display representation, a tap might be easier than customizing a button. And that's basically all. That's all I wanted to say and show. For me, I also use, in particular with that lens, very often autofocus. Let's go back into autofocus mode, see if it still works. That's basically all I wanted to say and show. I hope you find this tutorial useful. I've organized it again in chapters so you can jump to the corresponding section of interest for you. And if you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy. And of course, peace out.